Today we are meeting with Justin Juntunen. He didn't send me his bio, so I scrambled something together for him, but Justin is a founder and owner of Cedar and Stone Nordic Sauna. He's on a mission to help people to live better through sauna and in a path to revive the over 100-year-old tradition of community sauna in sauna capital of North America, Duluth, Minnesota. These are his words.
They're
And
your
we
words
try to
now.
challenge
They're your
them.
words now also.
No,
I think
I
we're
have-
recording.
No. I have copied these. These are your words. Anybody can challenge those. Justin is also a board member of FinFest USA, which is our fellow Finnish American cultural organization here in the US. FinFest USA 2023 will take place in Duluth, Minnesota this year at the end of July. It's actually from July 26th to 30th. And check that out and consider including that to your summer travels. And I am here with Thomas Flanagan, Finlandia Foundation's new executive director, and he will moderate and hopefully with your help challenge Justin a little bit. So Justin, you can start now by talking about sauna.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. What an honor to get to be here. It's a joy to get to be a part of National Sauna Week. As somebody who cares so deeply, like I think all of us who are on the call, about the cultural gift that is sauna. I think it's one of the sort of most lovely cultural gifts to experience. And so thanks for being a part of it here. Anne-Marie wants me to kick off by talking about sauna, and I will get to that, okay? So here we're going to talk about public sauna. We're going to talk about how sauna is an expression of community. It's a third place. It's a lot like the sort of coffee shop or the barber shop or the meeting place of the Finnish community and what we're sort of seeing in the US right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to geek out on some history. We're going to talk about how that has been in the US, and I would say where it's going in the US, because it's really having a renaissance right now. And we will make sure, Anne-Marie, to tie in sauna as a part of that, an expression of that. I want to double down on what Anne-Marie said. We just want to also invite you to interact today. This works really well when we understand that we're in this digital room and it's a lot like a classroom where we get to interact together. So Tommy's going to be manning the chat window and the Q&A window. You guys have done such a great job already of us getting to see where you are all over the country. Hi, Anita Salo from Marquette, Michigan, and Carrie from all the way from France. Carrie, so glad that you're joining us all the way from France today. It's probably much more in the evening than it is afternoon here, but we're so glad to have you. I want to invite you to, when those questions come up in your head, when Tommy and I are talking back and forth, actually just write them down then. We're not saving all the time at the end because we have so many good things to talk about. We want you to ask them right away, and then we will be answering them as we go through the process. So right now, if you have those burning questions, go find the Q&A window or the chat window and send those over to us right now. So that is where I want to kind of just make sure people are hearing that from us. Tommy, we kind of, as we were prepping for this, we wanted to say, we're going to talk a little bit about sauna history, the culture of it, public sauna as a portion of that, and then where it's going. Mm-hmm. I would say, I guess I want to ask this, how many people know what a public sauna is? How many people have been to a public sauna? Has anybody sort of heard that? We got a lot of hands being raised over here. Good work, good work, good work. When you think of, Tommy, the characteristics of a public sauna, what does that mean to you? Because we want to get an okay definition before we start getting in the weeds on it. What do you think about when you think about public sauna?
Yeah, it's a good question. Got to define what we're talking about first, for sure. It's interesting you say that, because for me, it definitely, I don't think of anything in the US, to be honest with you. When I'm thinking of public sauna, I'm thinking of a place someplace in Finland. I mean, a recent public sauna that I've been to is, you know, the big famous one now, the Löyly in Helsinki. So I think of, you know, it's kind of a calm atmosphere. You know, some people might be scantily clad, but some people not at all. And it's just a very welcoming atmosphere. So it's also accessible to people, right? So there's not many barriers to entry. Anybody can partake as they would like to. So I think of Finland, and I think of it's open to people, and no one's excluded, really.
Yeah, that's so good. Those are absolutely, I would say, defining characteristics. And I'll just add to that. The public sauna is the space in society, in public spheres, where the sauna is at the center of the experience of the place. There are lots of other businesses or community spaces that perhaps have a sauna in them, right? The sort of most common in the American dialect is the YMCA or the gym that sometimes has a sauna in it. And to many of us in the room, or to some of the people who have been to Finland, they might go into that space and they say, I've just been given a lower quality version of the thing that I know and love so the most. The sauna is not the center of the YMCA. The sauna is not the center of the gym that happens to have one, or the hotel. Oh, there's one by the pool. There's a sauna somewhere by a pool in a hotel. And I went in there once and it was 107 degrees and they told me I couldn't throw water on the rocks, right? That is a different thing than a public sauna. So the public sauna is the space that's actually built with the sauna in the center. And it isn't also a spa. So spa culture, sauna might be an amenity there, but it isn't the center. So we look at Finland being sort of the world leader in sauna, and it being so the most ingrained in culture. And we see public sauna in many different expressions. We see it in Löyly, right on the water, the big, beautiful, sort of more modern renaissance of that. And we see it throughout in multiple different neighborhood and community-oriented municipal and public saunas that are available for the people, which is what you said too. It's sort of open to everybody. It isn't elitist. It isn't spa for only a few people. And what I think is so interesting about the American story around sauna, and not many people know this, we're going to try to tell a story that doesn't get told very much today, is that in America, the first expression of sauna was the public sauna. It wasn't the sauna that many people know here as the sort of only way, either being the sauna by the lakeshore. All you Minnesotans and Wisconsinites and Michiganders in the room, you immediately think sauna next to a little lake and jumping in. Oh, that's a great, beautiful, wonderful expression of sauna. That wasn't the first one in the US. But before that, it was the sauna at the farm. And it was often the first building built when folks were homesteading, when they were immigrating over and they were homesteading. But we got to go back a little bit further to find when those first immigrants were coming over, and those first folks from Finland. This was late 1800s, early 1900s. Maybe many people in the room here have grandparents and aunts and uncles and great grandparents from this era. And when they came over with a will to work and a cultural gift. That was the expression and experience of sauna. And what happened was public saunas were built in many of these towns. And that was the first sort of expression of sauna being really sort of open to the public. Now, we can get in the weeds. People can feel free to chant, sort of push the buttons here on this. I do know in Cokato, Minnesota, there's probably the oldest standing sauna in the US right now. That's still standing. But I do want to take you on a little bit of a history tour of my city that talks about public sauna, because I think it's similar to a lot of the communities around the US that have experienced that. So as I keep telling this part of the story, I absolutely want you guys to ask some questions, to go. We have a number of people already chiming in. Anita says, if you can't throw water on the rocks, it's really not a sauna. I think you're preaching to the choir in this room, Anita. But I wanna sort of be talking this through. I'm gonna share my screen here, and let's see here, Tommy. Can you see this now? Are you seeing this going on here?
Yep, I can. Sauna history. Good place to
So the
start.
so let's talk about Duluth. So Duluth, I'm in the western Great Lakes, right on Lake Superior. Duluth 100 years ago was sort of known as Little Helsinki. And here is a picture right here of the Finnish bath that was right on the shores of Lake Superior. This building is still standing here in Duluth. And we've had a public sauna here basically at this location over the last couple of years. It's super fun. I'll tell you about the modern history in a little bit. But right now, we see expressions of this all over. Duluth, like many cities in the north, and especially this city, had waves of Finnish immigrants, starting in around the 1850s, going to the early 1930s. We'll ask Steve Lepala to check my math on that. He probably knows more specifically. He's in the room. And April 4th of 1913, our local newspaper printed the headline from the 1910 census. So this is how fast information moved back in that day. The Duluth Tribune reports that Duluth has the most Finnish people of any city in the US. So we were at the time sort of Little Helsinki. We were known in that way. And those folks who came over, they were immigrants. And the poorest neighborhood in the city was known as Finntown. So that area was the spot when you got off the boat, you started working, and you were working in the mines and the mills or the docks. And you did not have money to go put a sauna next to a lake and jump in and then go hang out in the cabin afterwards. You quite literally just got to America. You hadn't homesteaded the farm yet, but there were community saunas built all over the city to serve these immigrants so they could enjoy sauna. So I went into the Duluth Evening Herald archives right on the bottom here, 1904 to 1922. This is the daily newspaper way back in the day. This is Twitter from 1904, you guys. So as we go, we start seeing ads in the paper. Now, this was the English paper. There was also a Finnish language paper, and there were probably way more ads in that paper. But in the English language paper, we started seeing ads for community sauna and public sauna in 1904. This is in Canal Park. New steam bathrooms erected on St. Croix Avenue in the rear of Lakeshore Block Rooms for Ladies. New Finn bathhouse, up-to-date bathrooms, also cold shower baths. And it's, guess what, a sure cure for rheumatism. Tommy, I know you've been having that rheumatism issue lately. This is a sure cure. Everybody knows it, a sure cure. Here's another one, just opened, 1911, new bathhouse from proprietors Korki and Sari, also on St. Croix Avenue. Finally, the YMCA got one in 1913, the one that we think is just all over the place. They have new electric and steam baths right in our downtown Duluth. Over in another part of Duluth, we have another one, the Kajaninens, Finnish bathhouse on the east side. Here's a lovely one, Jainio and Johansson, free trial of Finnish steam bath. So these ads were coming up all over the city. This is the one right here, 1921. This one still exists and is still running today. And it opened in 1921. This has been running 100 years in our city. And this is the big grand opening of the Duluth Steam Bath Co. right in downtown in Duluth. And so we are seeing, and this is one of my moments where Anne-Marie said it earlier, I think Duluth has a historic claim at the sauna capital of North America. Now, you guys are also in great sauna towns, I'm sure, all over North America. We had a whole lot of them. And what I believe is happening is this tradition, this part of the tradition is being revived. Because what happened from here was those immigrants, they got a little bit of money and then they bought the farm. And then the sauna was built at the farm. And then in the wartime era, 30s, 40s, 50s, what was happening was all those folks and their kids and their kids' kids, well, they bought the house. And then they put the sauna at the house. And what happened to kitchens happened to saunas at that time. They got really easy and convenient. And if anybody's grown up to had a sauna in the basement or a sauna in the backyard that had an electric stove, this is what was happening then. Sauna got a little more easy and a little more convenient. And then at some point along the way there, they bought the property on the lake. And then some of us who grew up with sauna on the lake, well, then that was much more of a normal thing that was happening sort of mid 20th century. And now, late 1900s into the new millennium, what we're seeing is again and again this drive and this excitement, not just for private sauna, but also for the excitement of sauna in the public space, of a gathering spot, a place to connect, a place to meet people, a place to know each other. And many people in this room are sort of cultural preservationists who have been given this really good, exciting experience, this cultural gift of sauna, but it's often been served on a private plate. It's been served through the family. You've been invited into the one that grandpa built a sauna at some point along the way, and now the whole family gets to use it. So we're sort of now seeing people say, hey, sauna can also happen in the public sphere. Tommy, that's a little bit of the history. That's at least the history of Duluth. And also there's a mimicking history of a lot of different Finnish towns and enclaves where there were Nordic immigrants at the times. And I think it's really interesting where we're going with this. And we're going to talk more about that. But any sort of thoughts, what do you hear as I sort of tell that history lesson, as we sort of unpack this? What are things that are coming up to you?
I mean, yeah, it's a super interesting thing because like I was telling you earlier, we've talked also this whole week in Sauna Week about sauna in Finland and kind of from a Finnish perspective. So this is actually a very new, even to me as a Finnish American, right? I've never really considered the sauna in terms of American history or what was going on here. So, you know, the fact that you said it's a renaissance of the public sauna in the US is interesting because it's like, oh, did it exist before? And you just showed that in fact it very much did, you know, and that the Finnish immigrants coming to the US and not having property or even jobs yet, really. But one thing that they made sure they had access to right away was a public sauna, right? So that says a lot about this, how central it was to public life in Finland too at that time. So yeah, I think that's interesting when you talk about a renaissance of it. So what's actually coming back around as something that's popular. So, and the fact that that one has been around for over 100 years in Duluth, right? I would be really interested to know how popular that is. I mean, when we get to today, but do you have one thing I noticed about the stuff you shared on the screen in the English, you know, newspaper clippings, it was never actually referred to in any of those as sauna, right? The word sauna didn't even appear in those. It was always Finnish steam bath or Finnish bath. Do you have a comment on that?
Well, I think that, you know, I'm really proud to come from a heritage where we've been proud that English has grabbed one Finnish word and put it in the dictionary, and that's
Right.
sauna. Now here's where I'm going to maybe defray from a couple other people on the call. I grew up in a bunch of cultural preservationists where they care a lot about how that word is pronounced. And I have been around people who have corrected and reprimanded people for decades around how that word is pronounced. And as you know, I've been saying it sauna for a while now. That tends to be how it comes out of my mouth. Now, here's the thing, you guys. I have never, ever in my life watched anybody changed how they pronounce sauna or sauna based on somebody reprimanding them. You know what changes them, Tommy? Do you know what actually helps them change how they say that word?
Just hearing it over and over from someone?
No. It's experience.
Experience. Okay.
It's actually having great sauna. So if
Mm.
I were to order a quesadilla on the menu, you'd be like, why are you ordering what are you talking about? You pronounce that quesadilla. Well, that's probably because somebody at some point in Southern California has provided you with like a super tasty quesadilla, right? And you're in a part of the country that Spanish language is connected enough, right?
Yeah.
So my take on this is we just got to give more people great sauna. We have to introduce them to what they're doing. We can't give them the bad versions of sauna. We already heard in the chat that if you can't throw water on the rocks, it's not a sauna. We already know that. The thing we need to keep doing is not just be cultural preservationists and hold it pure for us, the people in the room who understand this. We need to figure out ways to get it to more people so they can experience this at levels of quality and enjoyment and understanding and culture that they didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
What's happening in sauna now is a lot like what happened with craft beer 15 years ago. You're in San Diego. That's also one of the hubs. There were breweries that were starting to pop up. And as they were creating beer with different and more ingredients, they were quite literally teaching the people, look, here's quality. look, it can taste different. Look, you can experience this in a different way. And now we've seen over the last 15 years, little breweries pop up all over the US, as far as Finland now,
Yeah.
of this new culture of craft brewing. I think that craft idea and that care about quality is happening also in sauna. People are asking, wait a minute, it's not just in a YMCA. Risto brought up in the notes right here, he says, traveling sauna in 2017, best sauna promotion ever. Thank you to our sponsors in the Embassy of Finland in the USA. They toured a sauna all over the US, opening the doors to sauna for people, and people would try it. And it wasn't just a McDonald'sification of sauna. It wasn't just a lower quality version. It was the real thing, right? And we're seeing that again and again now, where people are sort of interested in how do I open this up in new parts of the country. So there's a whole lot of people who have been sort of interested in this, and it's growing in a number of different ways. One, I would say because of some wellness benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a question here, why is it growing? Why now? Well, we are in the age of anxiety. I think we're in a time in the world where people are more stressed out and full of anxiety than maybe ever before. I think our phones are probably part of that. This is built to grab our attention, not to keep us healthy.
Right.
And so people are saying, wait, how do I calm down?
Mm-hmm.
How do I find spaces that are healthy for me?
Mm-hmm.
We could look at what happened in yoga in the last 10 years. Yoga went from this thing that your crunchy friends knew about, but you didn't know about. And now there's one in every single neighborhood. And that's because there were people who cared about it, who discovered it, and who taught it to their community. There were yogis who were teaching it in every town. What we're seeing right now is the same thing with sauna. So our work in our business, we have community spaces, public spaces for sauna, where we invite thousands of people to enjoy sauna at the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
We also build saunas for people, get them all over the country. We sell components, right? You want to sell the pieces, the towel, the bucket and ladle, all those goodies. And this is the interesting one in this conversation, is that we have people coming to us wanting to be trained on how to run a sauna business. They actually want to come and sort of learn, how do I give this away to my community? And what does that look like? This spring, we're going to graduate our 55th business out of our sauna incubator program. Wellness entrepreneurs who care a lot about making and inviting their people. Wade Litt's on the call here right now. Wade's doing that right now. And he's doing it really, really well. Wade, good job. You're killing it. Keep going, serve your community. There's maybe a few others of you on the call too. So there's a really interesting thing that's happening where there's a lot of folks starting to discover this and want to share it at more quality. And then, and only then, you guys, do I think the whole US will start saying sauna more naturally out of their mouths. That was a long way to get around to pronunciation.
That was really good. I like that a lot. It's a whole experience. It ties back to what you said at the beginning, that sauna is an expression of community, right? And I think we're talking about the US right now, but there's a comment in the chat here too about an example in Norway, in Oslo, Norway, where this is kind of on the uptick. And I wonder also about just the generation component to it. Like you're saying, in the kind of the Western world, we're so busy and we're tied to technology and sitting in front of a screen, and people are looking for, like what you said, that authentic kind of way to be in community. And sauna lends itself well to that, because you don't really bring your computer to that, right? You don't bring your technology to that. You just are there with whoever's there. So it's similar to kind of the craft beer thing about doing something that's more local and more community oriented. So I think that's really interesting and probably highlights a positive future for sauna in the US. Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of good questions coming in here as well that I think tie into that, that are around cost. Christine says, what's the cost of a public sauna? And then Wade Litt, Wade, because he's a sauna entrepreneur, he's going into this in real high detail. He says, how do you think about price accessibility with public sauna in the US? For example, in Finland, many public saunas can be as little as 15 or 20 bucks. I would say even less in some places, whereas many private saunas in the US hold community sauna sessions that are 40, 50, or for just an hour. How should we early entry sauna entrepreneurs and enthusiasts think about the trade-offs between charging relatively high prices they can charge and new markets
along with sort of this like socioeconomic and accessibility. Okay, so what's it cost to do this thing? These are great questions. Wade, here's my thoughts. One, I would like sauna to be ubiquitous and egalitarian and available to all, and then multiple different layers of sort of pricing structures based on who you are, like you see in Finland all the time, like you see in the Nordic countries, like you see in Oslo right now. There was a chat about that, like, look at all the different ones. That's what you'll see in the yoga sphere. Oh, there's the really fancy yoga studios, and then there's really like easy to find drop-in rates, community spaces, right? So there's gonna always be a sphere of this. We in the US don't have enough cultural awareness yet to make it so accessible to everyone that we just don't have enough capacity, right? So when I think about the sort of private sauna experience or the mobile sauna, things that are sort of popping up all over, great entrepreneurs who are saying, hey, I want to put the sauna on wheels so I can bring it all over the place. The way that you get costs down is volume. The means in which we have right now in the US to get to volume isn't really there. And the market isn't really ready for it yet. So they don't know what it costs. So this is not to take advantage of anybody. What it is to say, what does it actually cost to run a business for you? And how can you do it in a way that you can charge enough so that you can keep doing it for a long time, and we can get to that future that we all want, where there's like really accessible sauna for everyone. So I would say it's actually helpful to start a little higher at the beginning, because it's going to allow you to sort of do a business that you're going to want to keep doing, because it actually is bringing up enough resources so that you can keep doing it. When I look at craft beer, somebody had to say the crazy idea that I want to put all the good ingredients in it, and I'm going to sell an IPA for $7. I'm going to sell a 10-ounce pour of an imperial stout for $12. And if you had somebody who had only drunk a Coors Light for the last 20 years of their life, they'd think you were crazy. That'd be insane. You could get a whole 12-pack for 12 bucks, right? This is still true. This is still true. We're talking about sort of different things. We're talking about different things here to say, like, yeah, there's the Lolu in Helsinki is huge. There's also more saunas than there are cars in Finland, right? So just by scale and access. Now, the other thing I'll say is, I think a lot of Americans who understand good sauna have experienced good sauna, and it's probably been given to them for free because dad or grandpa or grandma or mom or aunt and uncle, somebody built the sauna. Somebody spent thousands of dollars to give them free sauna the rest of their life.
Right.
And so it's like a funny, like, psychological quirk that us Finns, who are thrifty by nature, some of us, especially us immigrant heritage North American Finns, Finnish Americans, have been folks that sort of say, hey, sauna sort of is a free gift. It should be like water, right? And I would say yes. And guess what? That thing, that cultural gift we have, people are going to pay for it.
Yeah.
They're going to pay for it because you're actually providing them like an amazing amount of value to destroy their stress. The question is not what is it worth? The question is, what is it worth to get rid of all your stress?
Right.
And there are people that will hand you $100 bill and a $50 tip to walk them through sauna for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So that you've destroyed their stress for the night, and they sleep better than they ever have. Right? Like these are the ways to think about it so that we can get it to more people.
Yeah.
So that's, again, a long way to say, I think there's going to be a lot of price points. I think there's going to be a lot of people doing this. I think there's going to be more, but we actually at the beginning probably have to say, hey, what does it actually cost? Let's do our math. Let's do our accounting. Let's be good financial stewards. My grandfather ran a barber shop in Esco, Minnesota for nearly 40 plus years. And he didn't, he was a great accountant. He was really conservative with his numbers because he knew what his costs were. He gave great haircuts, and he was really good at talking to people.
Yeah.
The experience of sauna is amplified when you have good story around it. when you teach people, when you engage people, when you invite them into an expression that they've maybe never felt before. And all of the folks who are on this call who grew up with sauna probably knew that intuitively. They've been taught that a little bit. We're trying to teach it also to new folks all over the place. So great question, Wade. Great question, Christine. So many good things kind of in there. Hey, Tommy, what else do you see? What else do you see on there?
Well, I see here a tip from Kari to go to the International Sauna Association LinkedIn. So I hope everyone can actually see that. And if you're interested in that, that's part of this whole week, is to become connected with those who are also interested in sauna worldwide and in the US and in Finland. So do check that out. Wade says, thanks for your insight. And I kind of wanted to add to that, going with the craft beer analogy a little bit. You think of craft beer and how that people were willing at some point to pay like a premium for that. And there was a time when craft beer was a lot more expensive than what you normally get, right? And in parts of the country now, it's very comparable prices. I wonder if we get to a point sometime where there's public sauna in different parts of the country take on like their own kind of regional characteristics. You know what I mean? Like, was the public Finnish sauna in Duluth different in some way than one maybe in Michigan or in Wisconsin, in a similar way that, the IPA in Oregon might be kind of going on one trend, whereas in Colorado, it's doing a different thing, but it's still like in the same genre. You know what I mean with that question?
Yeah, that's fun, because I often think about sauna experience. I think about sort of what we're doing. And I say that two things I like to talk about. One is the room that we know of sauna, that experience. It's the one room in architecture and design that is malleable enough to hold sort of all the experiences of human life. Here's what I mean by that. And this is what happened as the immigrants, when they came over. It was the place where babies were born, families were nurtured, and the dead were prepared for burial, right? It quite literally held the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
Now in the modern world, it is the space that is gregarious enough to hold a whole bachelorette party of women wanting to have the most fun that they've had all year and celebrate the bride-to-be, as well as hold the private moment for the couple who's wanting to celebrate their anniversary, as well as the couple, and this is where it's going to get heavy, who just lost a child, or the couple who just lost a parent. And they come to sauna. This happens with us in our public sauna. They book the space to grieve. They book the space to process, to hold space for people in the highest of highs and the hardest, lowest, deepest moments. The sauna is one of the very few spaces that I think actually holds all those things. Another metaphor for this is the sauna is the table, not the dish. So we invite people to sit at the table. And this is to your IPA comment here and the West Coast versus the East Coast. I actually believe the meal on the table is how you invite people into sauna and what you're saying we're going to experience right now. And this is actually true in Finnish culture too. This isn't just an Americanized, like, let's see what happens here and let's see how many things we can throw on top of it. I think the sauna can be very quiet and deeply meditative. There are plenty of Finns who haven't said very many words in saunas, and that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And I think that space of a meditative, calm silence is really needed in our American life right now. Yeah. Also, our world is really lonely, and we actually need to create spaces for healthy human connection. I think the sauna has done that really well and can do that really well. If you've ever been in a public sauna or just somebody's sauna and you've met somebody and you've got to know them and you realize all we did together was we spent that time doing sauna and jumping in water that's maybe kind of cold and going back into the heat. You've just done a hard thing together. You can bond folks really quickly, right? You can get them connected really easily. The sauna has a chance to do that more than any other space. The meals in which we're going to create on top of the table that is the sauna, I think are going to look seasonal. They're going to look regional. They're going to look and have the fingerprints of the entrepreneurs who are running them and the spaces in which they are. You're going to see yoga studios and mountain biking clubs and ski racers create sort of sauna in the public sphere that ties into those athletic moments. And then we've done this as well. You're going to see researchers say, this is really crazy good for our mental health.
Yeah.
Let's study what's happening in our bodies and our minds when people come into sauna and use sauna regularly. And they're going to create space for that. And people are going to want that. They're going to buy a membership. They're going to say, I want to be a part of this thing so much that I want to be a member. I want a robe with this on it. I want a little bag with the sauna thing on it. I want like either a silly sauna hat or sandals or slippers. I want to have these things that sort of say I'm a part of this tribe because they really care about that. Those are some things that we're already starting to see happen. And I think will happen even more in the next 10 years of this.
Yeah.
And I really think there's sort of room to play, room to be creative. I want to encourage anybody who's thinking about sauna in terms of entrepreneurship. It is just the biggest canvas that you get to paint on. Yeah. Now, it is also really hard to do this. I'm quick to cast the vision, and I'm also quick to talk about how difficult it is to run a business and be in a business that's sort of new. Kim, you just asked a really good question. In a wonderful way, you said the United States has a litigious culture. Oh my goodness, there has never been a truer sentence written. What are the liability and insurance concerns for public sauna, and do these concerns make it cost prohibitive for potential entrepreneurs? Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's why I want to be careful is because as a fledgling or re-emerging industry, there is either very little legislation and restrictions around this or sort of support for how to do it well. So there are some folks that are going to do it well. And then there are some folks that are going to sort of like guerrilla warfare their way into sauna in the public sphere. And what they might do, and this is the worst case scenario, is they might burn the thing down and ruin it for everybody. The sauna is a space where actually, if we think about the spaces in which you're in, we really need to think about safety.
Yeah.
Like we need to think about it from how the thing is built to how people interact with it, to how it's managed. We have a 5-page fire suppression and safety document.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Yeah.
And if you don't have something like that, there are very few insurance companies that are going to take you seriously, because that's the name of the game on doing business in the US is there is a lot of, hey, can you do that? Should you do that? We just, let's go to a fun cultural Finnish moment. Does anybody know what a vanto is? Somebody in the chat window, tell me what a vanto is. I bet a handful of you do. I bet a handful of you do. What's going on in a vanto when you hear that word? Nils is on the call. Nils one knows what it is. Cold water swimming, exclamation point. Absolutely. A vanto is the hole in the ice, right? Mm-hmm. It's where you jump in the water. It's that moment where you don't feel more alive than when you pop out of the water. This winter, we cut potentially North America's largest cold plunge that was hand cut in the Duluth Harbor here, right in Lake Superior. And we put a big floating cold plunge with ladders to go in and out and a big ramp to go down. The thing was very expensive. And do you think there wasn't a conversation about how is that safe? And do you think the insurance company that'll work for? We actually have a 9-page document on safety operations for the cold plunge. Because we need those type of things to get the insurance company to buy in, to get the property owners to buy in, to get all the folks that are sort of needing to do the sign off and the checklist. And now we've had the mayor here. She's already been out there taking sauna with us.
Good. That's a good endorsement there.
we have good endorsements by good people. There are parts of the country that are embracing this, that will embrace this if, and only if, we do it responsibly. And we treat it with long-term vision in mind. We look at it to play the long game together. We're not trying to make a quick buck. We're not trying to just pay off the mobile sauna. We're not going to put a barrel on a trailer and say, now I have a business. Let's see what happens. Do all the work. Do every bit of the work and the thinking, and it's going to be way harder than you want, but that's what business is. And guess what? It will actually make it worth it because you'll get it to more people, and more people will want to do it.
Yeah.
Because there are very few people that will actually go down to the ice and cut the hole. There's a lot more people that will say, if you do that work and I watch somebody else do it and they come out and they're still smiling, I might do it.
Yeah.
And now those people who might do it are doing it every single weekend here with us. Every single day we're open here in Duluth because we've sort of made it easy for them and we've made it safe. And also it's supporting the community.
Yeah.
So those are things worth counting the costs on, right? Those are things worth inviting people into, and they should be worth something. Super good question, Kim, around liability and insurance. I will say this, insurance companies just want to make money, just like a lot of businesses. So prove to them, if you're an entrepreneur, prove to them that you are a safe bet, and they will figure out a way to insure you because they want to make money. They don't want to pay out money. They want to say, oh, this is a really interesting business that's going to make money, and they're going to pay their payments to us. And okay, cool. So just prove to them that, think ahead, anticipate the questions they're going to ask. If they ask ones that you don't know the answers to, go find the answers. You want to be best friends with the fire chief in town, get to know them, make sure to hang out with them, right? Because they just want the city to be safe.
Yeah, they want it to be safe. And you're pointing at something interesting. You have to go through these hoops that we have in American legal culture to get to make that right experience happen, right? I mean, I've heard the thought before that the reason we have sauna in the US that doesn't allow you to put water on it is actually a legal question, right? Just because insurance companies said no water and electricity, there's this risk of electrocution. So you can have the sauna, it means it's a dry room sauna, but that means it's actually not a sauna, right? So, you know, the US might be the only place where you would need to put on the door of the sauna a warning that, hey, you might sweat in here or something like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, you got to do those things.
Yeah. And on the water on the rocks thing, I mean, some folks in the room probably know this, but laulu, the word for steam in sauna in Finnish, is much more than water vapor. It's not just boiling water over the stove. It's specific to sauna, that word.
In the sauna.
And that word means soul or spirit or life. When we sauna together, we are living well together. When we throw water on the rocks, we are adding soul to the room. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That story is, people are interested in that. And if you've been in a sauna where they've said, don't throw water on the rocks, they have literally just ripped the soul out of the sauna. You are doing something else, right? And we sort of, we throw up our arms for it. But the reason why that happened, the reason why that insurance company said that way back when, and then everybody fell in line, was likely because they didn't know what sauna was.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
They weren't educated. They didn't understand. They weren't ever walked through the practice. They weren't ever discussed with people about how this actually works and feels. And now we have this weird thing of we have to define dry sauna or wet sauna, which I think is it's a false dichotomy that is just an American thing, because at some point somebody said, don't throw water on the rocks.
Correct.
Well,
yeah.
Oh, well, let's get through that challenge. We can get through that challenge. And we can get to more high quality versions of sauna in more places all over the US.
And I think that's going to naturally happen because you probably read what Kari wrote in here, that the wellness business in North America is, he's saying 20% annual growth rate, so in some ways, if you're a person who believes in the market and this type of thing, people are just interested in wellness and well-being, and sauna has been proven, in many ways to contribute to that. So we are probably on the cusp of some type of change here. So that kind of, maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Where do you see it actually going at this point in the US sauna culture?
Yeah, I think it could go one of two ways. McDonald's is a thing in Minnesota because it's convenient, and in the US because it's convenient and it's easy, it's cheap. America's really good at taking cultural gifts and McDonald'sification of them. Look at it. Here's the cheap thing. We're actually seeing it in sauna right now. It's an expression of sauna. Ooh, we might not even want to use this word, of using infrared heating. If you were in Germany, Germans care a lot about structure. They won't even let you call infrared rooms saunas because they say, wait, you've removed too many key ingredients. It doesn't exist anymore. They do this in beer. You can only use so many ingredients in Germany.
Right. Exactly.
So the infrared sauna or the infrared cabin is the sort of Americanized, cheap, easy, convenient way. It's microwavable food, right? There's still calories in it, but it's not home cooking. It's not quality organic ingredients served artfully to you. I think America's, to some degree, already going down that path. There will be folks, there are examples of wellness franchises that are just popping up, a lot of little infrared cabins in a room, in a little studio. and it will be the new Zumba for the next 7 years.
Mm,
And then it'll go away. Those sort of wellness folks will be onto their new fad.
yeah.
What won't go away, and what we have the chance to do in North America, is to lean into the vast hundreds or thousands of years of sauna culture and extend a new chapter of that and say, let's look like yoga did and say, this has a cultural tradition. Let's carry that to another generation. Let's teach them the ways. Let's teach them the stories. When my grandpa talked about growing up on the farm here in Esco, Minnesota, he grew up on a little dairy farm, and he was a little boy following around in the farm. And he said, I would always try to go to the end of the day to be in the sauna with the adults, the ones who are working on the farm. And I went there with them because the sauna was the place where the stories were told. And I think we have a chance to both create spaces to carry culture, to tell those stories again and again. And I think we can create healthier spaces to tell those stories in. I think we can actually create more chance for more people to do that.
Mm,
One of my favorite Finnish proverbs, and I think this is true about all good sauna, is in the sauna, all people are created equal, but nowhere more so than in the sauna, right? That idea that we are egalitarian, we care, we're all in the same place, but then you go in the sauna and you are not the lawyer and the doctor and the CEO and the garbage man and the teacher and the insert thing. You are all equal in the sauna. You're all there to be you.
yeah.
And I think we have the chance to do that in the US as well. We could actually carry this on, and it could look really great. It could look like easily accessible in terms of cost and experience in every single neighborhood. And that's going to include big spaces like Lolu and big investments in key areas that say, come on, come be a part of it. We're already seeing it. We're already seeing it. A lot of the folks on this call are coming at it through a cultural lens. All the wellnessy people who are looking at the business of it are saying, wow, there's actual impact behind this. People want this. We can create space for this. We can dedicate thousands, 10,000 square feet of space to this in big areas all over.
Yeah.
I know of a sauna company in the US, a sauna company in Canada, so in North America. They just got $8 million worth of seed funding to go national.
Wow.
That's big. That's really big. I also know of a small sauna company here in the US that is currently fighting a legal battle with their city to stay open. And this is coming back to one of these comments here about on legal, what public health requirements are public saunas inspected?
Right.
Right. There's actually a lot of policy in this that we actually should look at and when you talk with your city, it's going to be different every single time, but there should be, and this is likely around water usage. There's a whole lot of legal already around pools. Why is that? Because there's pools in a lot of places in a lot of cities, and we want people to be safe when they're in them. We don't want people to get sick. We don't want them to fester bacteria and germs. So in a similar way, we need to be thinking in those terms about sauna and all the adjacent structures for a sauna. Cold water, cold showers, hot tubs, pools, right? These are all things that are, when we think of the public sauna, they're often things that are adjacent, but the sauna is at the center.
Mm-hmm.
I could keep going for another couple hours on this, but I think we're getting close to the end of our time, Tommy. We're getting close.
We are.
I would love, if anybody has any other pressing, burning questions, please send them over. And there's the question is this being recorded? And Tommy, I think we are absolutely that. That'll be up on Finlandia Foundation National's YouTube channel very soon and on the website very soon.
Yep, all of the events from this week's sauna, National Sauna Week will be viewable there. Justin, I think you've done a fantastic job of convincing us of, educating us on the history of the sauna in the US, the public sauna, and kind of prospects for the future. I think we have a lot of work to do. One practical question I have is, are there very many construction people or contractors in this country who even understand how to build a sauna in the Finnish tradition?
Well, on the call right now is Nils, who, if you're in the East Coast, go talk to Nils. I would say he's one of the best top 3 sauna makers in terms of quality in all of North America. I think there are a handful of people who do care a ton about quality sauna in terms of construction. And I think there's a whole bunch of contractors who look at sauna and they say, yeah, I can build that because I build homes. Those are bigger than saunas. I can easily build that. And I would be wary of working with them because the sauna is one of the hardest design problems that you can have. It gets up to 200 degrees plus Fahrenheit. It can oftentimes be -20 outside if you're in Montana or Minnesota or some of these northern climates. And it has to deal with water and moisture. So your good sauna makers and builders, you actually want to vet them. You want to ask them some hard questions of, have you done one of these before? What are your thoughts on ventilation? How do you think about heating? What's your thoughts on wood type and species? There are some geeky questions here, and I invite you to talk to me, talk to Nils, talk to a whole bunch of people who really geek out hard around the practice of how to build these things. And sure, there's some innovation that will happen and there's some creativity that'll happen, but I do think this is another area where we can go back and look at culture. And this is where I'm going to get to Anne Marie's question. We can go back to sauna quality and we can start Nils's last name. Here we go. This is being come in. Nils Scheinholm. And just, I think it's Google Vermont sauna and you'll get to Nils. I'm pretty sure that'll get you there, Margaret. All right, coming back to the question to open us. We're bringing us full circle here right before we land the plane. The Savu sauna tells us something about good sauna. Savu sauna was the first experience of sauna. It was actually built before there was a lot of metal work, before there were chimneys, before there were stoves. So the Savu sauna, Savu means smoke. And so these spaces were large rooms, and the fire was built in the room and rocks were poured or were stacked on top of it. So you captured all the heat into the stones, but that whole room was full of smoke. And people would crawl in and open a little hatch and then the smoke would exit. There's actually one of these in my hometown, Esko, Minnesota, still up, and it says Savu sauna with beautiful Finnish dovetail corners out of old hewn logs. And that expression of sauna, here's some things that are true about it. Timbers from the land, rocks from the soil, and fresh water from nearby. And there were so many rocks to hold enough heat to do that, that it felt like a soft heat. It didn't feel harsh, didn't feel like sunburn. It didn't feel like a slap in the face. And when we look at good sauna now, we want to go back to those same traditions and say, how much thermal mass is in the room? How much rocks do you feel? What's the ventilation like in the room? Where are the benches at? What heights are they at? And that experience of Savu sauna, I hope someday we also have a public Savu sauna to experience in North America. There are very few, even that are existing still in North America. I'd love to see a public expression of that. Maybe we'll do that in Duluth. Maybe we'll do that with Nils in Vermont. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that at FinFest coming up. There will be good Savu sauna or good sauna at FinFest. I can't commit to Savu yet. I can't commit to the smoke sauna this year, but maybe in the next few. And so that is an expression where we want to find builders who care about the culture and the construction and the building science.
Yeah.
And you get what you pay for. Work with somebody who really knows their stuff and pay them well so that you can have a thing that'll last for decades, not a thing that's like a piece of snap together furniture that gets wobbly and doesn't last for you. I think sauna is a gift that will continue to give to families for generations, and doing this right is going to be a way to do that. So there's my thoughts on construction. That was a good thing to end on there.
That was a great end, that it's the gift that'll keep giving for generations to come. I thank you for everyone for coming today, and to you, Justin, for the expertise and the plug for FinFest coming up this summer. I think there's a lot of reason to go there, if not only just for the sauna experience that you could potentially get there. So thanks for everything.
Come visit us in Duluth, you guys, this summer. We would love to host you at FinFest. It's going to be super fun. And then I dropped a couple links for a little bit of our work, Cedar and Stone Nordic Sauna, also on YouTube. We do a bunch of sauna storytelling there, if this was fun. And then also our podcast, Sauna Culture. So if you just like geek out about sauna with me, about all this stuff, we got it. We're on all the channels, all the things. We're on, follow us on TikTok. Tommy's on TikTok. Nils is probably on TikTok. You guys, what an honor to be with you today. Tommy, thanks so much. And this was super fun. What a joy to get to hang out with you today.
Yeah, what a great way to end the week on a Friday like this, talking about sauna. Hope to hear from you all. And also tomorrow, remember to sign up for the session we have for Sauna Week with Jasper Pakkunen, the Finnish actor. That will promise to be a fun session as well. So I guess the only thing to say is thank you so much, Justin, for the information today. Have a great weekend. Stay warm. It sounds like people across the country need to stay warm, including here in San Diego. Thank you so much.
Bye, folks.
Kiitos. Hey, hey.